is up, Nickel City Mafia? I definitely blew out some people's ears on that one, on that new intro for sure. Sorry, apologize to all of you that had to hear that. It was a little bit loud, I agree. But how you doing, Jake, on this wonderful Wednesday evening, day after 4th of July? Did you have a good 4th?
Had a great 4th, Mike. It's a huge week for us. 30th birthday coming up in 2 days.
Oh, boy.
So I am enjoying the last few days as a 20-something-year-old and on to bigger and better things as I turn age 30. Just so you know, there's a lot of players out there that had their best season at the age of 30. So I have a couple off the top of my head. I think Reggie Wayne was one of those, and Jerry Rice probably in that factor as well. I'm sure Tom Terrific had a hell of a year as well. So I am very optimistic. I got at least 15 more years in me, according to Tom Terrific's timeline as well. So I hate to be comparing this show and myself to Tom Terrific so early, but yeah, here we are. You're
not one of those people who are like having a crisis turning
30,
not
at all. Actually, I am a soon-to-be 30-year-old with the mind of a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
So I'm just living life, and every day is the best day of my life, Mike. It's incredible. I just thank God every day, man. 30's the new 20, 40's the new 30. I mean, you're good, man. You're a young guy, many, many years to go. So hell yeah.
But it's funny, there are people that really have this crisis, like they go into, they get a little bummed out about turning 30, but it's good years, Jake.
I always said, when I get a little bit older, I still want to be running like 4.6 40 time. I think that is out the window officially, but in my head, I'm still an athlete. It feels great.
Hey, I mean, if you were training for it, I believe you could get there. Absolutely. But, you got other things going on these days.
Yeah, for sure.
But and he's got with the memory of an 80-year-old. It wasn't too loud. All right. Good to see you out there, Scott. And
hell yeah, Scott. What's up, brother?
To you. And good to see you out there, Brett. Brett, by the way, Go Bills podcast did a fun show last night, taking a lot of questions from people. I don't know if a lot of questions about the Bills, and he answered them very well. So good stuff out there, Brett. But today we're going to talk a little bit about a thing that I've been seeing. There's an assumption out there, Jake, and I think you're one of the believers. And there's an assumption out there that if you're an offensive-minded coach, that your team has a slight advantage over a defensive-minded coach on another team. And I saw this show. It's hard to find Bills content right now. Everyone's waiting for the end of July to get back to training camp. But I was watching this one show, and it was I forget the gentleman's name, but he's a big player in the sports world. And he was also saying that a offensive-minded coach has the advantage because it is a scoring league, and they believe that an offensive-minded coach spends a lot more draft capital on drafting offensive players versus a defensive-minded coach who wants to draft more and more defensive players. While that's true to some degree, I mean, if you're looking at the Bills this year alone, first and second round, prior to this year, they did spend a lot of stock capital. And the reason I'm talking about this, too, is he mentioned the Bills specifically, saying that we should be spending our stock capital on offensive players. And I don't know if he forgot about this year's draft, but the first 2 rounds were all about offensive players. Prior to this year's draft, Jake, obviously we had been spending a lot of stock on defensive players early. Boogie Basham, Gregory Rousseau, AJ Epinesa, and beyond that, I can't remember, but maybe you can even go further than that. But it got me to thinking, and I've asked you this question a couple times, and we didn't go deep into it at all. So I want to take a little time to go a little bit deeper, because I've asked you, I think the last show, and maybe a show, I don't know, a month or 2 ago, and I said, hey, do you believe a team that has an offensive-minded coach has an advantage? And you said yes. So I want to get your thoughts on why you think that, Jake.
Well, I mean, you look at the last few Super Bowl winners, pretty high-powered offenses for all of them. I mean, you look at this past year's Super Bowl, the 2 best teams were the 2 best offensive teams in the league, basically, right? And, boy, what an exciting Super Bowl that was. Now, while this hasn't always proven true over even like the last 20 seasons, I feel like every team has at least had a somewhat capable quarterback. Now, there are a few exceptions that kind of work into the mix too, with like the Trent Dilfers and Nick Foles. Although Nick Foles had a pretty damn good year that season.
He did. He really did.
there's always those guys that kind of fall into the cracks. But for the most part, you always have to have a pretty decent quarterback. And if your offense doesn't put up points, you're not winning the game, plain and simple. I mean, that's really it's what team can outscore the other, And while some of these games turn out to be the 13-3 games where the Patriots beat the Rams, they still needed just enough offensive firepower to get it done. Julian Edelman went off that game. So I think there's a lot of different circumstances when you look at past year Super Bowl winners where the coach and the team was pretty offensively powered. So Brad Johnson, that's a great name right there. Brad Johnson had some really good years, though. He was a Pro Bowl quarterback, don't forget. And I know his defense pretty much carried him that whole entire Super Bowl against the Raiders. He didn't have to do much. But I think, you look at all Super Bowl winners throughout the history of the NFL, the offense has been pretty damn good for the most part.
Yeah. So, I've heard, again, listening to the show, they're like, hey, the game is a scoring league. Of course it is. I mean, it's been a scoring league for a while now. But they also said that as an offensive-minded coach, you might have a better connection with your quarterback.
Yeah.
And that quarterback is connected with that coach. And when you have an offensive coordinator like Dable and you're connected with that person, but then he leaves, now you got to take that next person. Fortunately, we had Dorsey. I don't know if it's fortunately or unfortunately with the route we went. But you have that coach, that stable person that you will stay with through most of your career if it's a good coach like McDermott or somebody else. But they said that was one of the reasons maybe. But I don't know, and maybe you can say, they're willing to take more of a chance on fourth down, but I think that goes out the door as well. You got the Chargers coach.
Brandon Staley,
right? When I started doing the research for this, and based on him playing Madden football all the time,
he literally does too.
I literally thought he was an offensive-minded coach. He's not. Yeah. He's a defensive-minded coach, going for it. Like he doesn't matter what part of the field he's on. He trusts his offense, and so I think that that goes out the window. Thinking that maybe the offensive-minded coach will go for it. And we saw McDermott start going for it more last year, right? I know that was kind of something people talked about a couple seasons ago, saying he just doesn't. I wish he would go for it here, go for here. He trusted his team last year. He really did. So, again, I don't give that any validity there. I'll give you some data. Because what you're saying, there is a slight trend, but it's a trend. And we know how trends work. Trends, things, it goes offensive-minded, defensive-minded, and things just turn around. But right now, for the last 4 years, let me give you the last 12 years for Super Bowl teams, both NFC and AFC representatives. So the last 4 years really support your theory, Jake, because both the reps for the AFC and the NFC had offensive-minded coaches for the last 4 years. Now, there's some outliers. You got Andy Reid showing up twice, right? Yeah. He gets 2 wins. And then on the other side, as a loser, you got Andy Reid. So you got 3 times he's showing up. But you had Andy Reid, Sean McVay, Bruce Arians, and Andy Reid again. So for the past 4 years. On the other side of the ball, the losers, Nick Sirianni from Philly last year, Zach Taylor, Andy Reid, and Kyle Shanahan. So if you're looking at that, you can say, yeah, it's trending. And then let's go a little deeper. Then the 4 years before that, the prior 4 years, 2015 to 2018, you had a split as far as who won the Super Bowl. You had 2 defensive coaches. Again, guess who that was?
Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick. So you got a little outlier there. Then you had Doug Peterson, who's an offensive-minded coach for the Eagles. And then you had Gary Kubiak for the Broncos back in 2015. On the losing side of it, you had Ron Rivera, Dan Quinn, Bill Belichick, because he lost one of those Super Bowls he was in, and then Sean McVay again. And then you go back 4 years prior to that, 2011 to 2014, it was more of a defensive coach on both sides of the ball, both winners and losers. You had, out of those 4 years, you had 3 winners from the defensive side and 3 losers from the defensive side. So 6 out of the 8 teams there were defensive-minded coaches. So if I'm looking at this trend, if I had a curve for you, if I had a graphic for you, you would see data to support what you're saying. But let me give you some other data here. This is Super Bowls. Now, I'm just giving you, if you're gonna say, hey, this is the best way you should determine whether or not this is a thing or not. I don't have data for 2021. Just didn't have time to gather it because it does take a lot of time. But I did get data for 2022, last year, of course. And the offensive-minded coaches, their teams had a 52% winning percentage, whereas the defensive coaches had a 46%. But let me take you back here a couple of years. I'm going to take you back from 2020 to 2015. In 2020, it was defensive-minded coaches. They had a 55% winning percentage versus the offensive head coaches who had just a 486 percentage.
Interesting.
2019, defensive head coach again, 509 percentage versus 490. So the offensive head coaches were below 500. 2018 was kind of an anomaly. The offensive head coaches had a 529 winning percentage versus a 447 for the defensive-minded coaches. So that was a big disparity, probably one of the biggest for these 5 years I'm talking about. 2017, back to the defensive head coach. 2016 was the offensive coach, very, very slim margin there. And then 2015 was the defensive head coach. I'm going to cough here in a second. I need a drink. So go ahead and talk about that a little bit.
No, that's really interesting that you bring that up. And is this a case of just being good enough, though, to get there? Because you look at the Super Bowl winner, and ultimately it was an offensive-minded head coach's team. So, we've seen Sean McDermott take the Bills places that they haven't been in 25 years, 26 years. And actually longer than that, really. I mean, you go back to even the Super Bowl years, at least being in the dance, So, it begs the question, like, are defensive-minded coaches now just those guys that are good enough to get you into the dance, but not good enough to win you a Super Bowl? I still think that obviously there's a place in the league where defense wins championships. I mean, you even go back to like that Buccaneers-Chiefs Super Bowl from a few years back, and the story of that game, I mean, Gronk, I think he caught 2 or 3 touchdowns that game, 2 touchdowns maybe. Tom threw 3. He still won MVP, but really the story of that win was their defense and how they were able to get after Patrick Mahomes. So I think in big moments, like, defense still has a significant say in who wins that game, of course. But in order to even get there, I think your likelihood of getting there is a lot higher if you are an offensive-minded coach and team as compared to a defensive-minded coach and team.
Yeah, let me bring up this here. Go ahead and read this from Scott.
So Scott's saying he wonders what the stats for draft hit and miss rates are for offensive-minded versus defensive-minded coaches on offense and defensive players. Definitely, yeah, I am very curious to see that. I mean, you even look at the Bills' history. Who could you say were big hitters for us? I mean, obviously Josh Allen. We're talking just the Sean McDermott era, right? So defensive-minded coach. Look at our first couple rounds for each year. I mean, the biggest hitters, obviously Josh Allen, Tremaine Edmonds. I guess you could say Eddie Oliver. Probably. I mean, I would say Greg Rousseau, pretty good hit. So yeah, I mean, looking at that alone, it looks like it's definitely leaning more towards the defensive side with the defensive-minded head coach. But that is an interesting question because looking around the league, I wonder if that's the case for each team. Super Bowl argument sounds convincing, but the sample size is too small for me because I agree. Yeah, I definitely agree. You look at even previous seasons, the 2015 season where the Patriots, or 2016 Super Bowl it was, right? Patriots and Falcons, 2 defensive-minded head coaches, right? Bill Belichick, Dan Quinn. That was an insanely high-scoring Super Bowl too. And maybe one of the most exciting Super Bowls, although the Patriots still won, of course, 28-3, infamous game. But you look at that; those 2 guys come in with these stout defenses, and they end up scoring like crazy. So, very interesting for sure.
Yeah, and then we got Trey. First time I'm seeing Trey out there. Good to see you out there, Trey. Do we have stats on post-season performance for offensive coaches? That seems far more helpful statistic than regular season.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would be curious to see what those look like. I don't think we have those available right now, do we, Mike?
We do not. Okay. It's really hard to find recent data, you know, about this. So without doing the work manually, and while I was able to do some of it, I just couldn't do all of it. And I'm still trying to struggle here through a cough.
Oh, you're good. I was evaluating the Bills' head coaching history, and quite honestly, it is very interesting because the most success in recent memory has come from a defensive background for a head coach. You look at Sean McDermott, of course, being the most recent. But even before that, I mean, I would argue like Rex Ryan, he had a couple good years, although he didn't really get us to the playoffs. He still had a winning season. You look at guys like Greg Williams, even 8-8 the one year, and Dick Duran too, although his record was still a losing record. Same with Greg Williams. I mean, those guys actually gave us a bit of a chance. You know, we were 7-9 like 3 straight years with Dick Duran. Offensively, I mean, Mike Mularkey, Doug Marrone. But, like, again, those two guys had losing seasons. Chan Gailey, that was a big miss. So you look at the Bills' history, recent memory, and most of our successful head coaches have been defensive-minded. So that is pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, thanks, Trey. Yeah, I always try to bring a little data into things. And I agree with the point. Sorry, I'm getting my voice back here a little bit. But, yeah, the Super Bowl sample rate is too small, in my opinion. I did show you prior years, 2020 to 2015, how it was the defensive-minded coaches having the edge there. And again, this is a highly opinionated topic. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer to this. It just seems to be what people are thinking. In my view, Jake, my opinion, it's about leadership. I care less whether you're offensive-minded or defensive-minded. Are you winning that locker room? Are you getting those guys to buy into your system? Are you getting those guys to just play for you no matter what? I mean, they gotta feel like that you have their back. I think McDermott does a fantastic job with that. So for me, it's leadership. And again, you could argue the points on the defensive side of it all day long. I mean, someone's got to stop these high-powered offenses. And I'll bet as time goes on, the defense starts making, changes and adapting, and, the trend comes back. But you just got some amazing coaches right now and some amazing teams that have been built when you're talking about, the Bills, the Bengals, the Chiefs, of course. The Chargers are up and coming as well. The Eagles in the NFC, I pretty much was talking the AFC. You just got these fantastic teams that are just so good right now, and that might be skewing the data quite a bit. But
yeah,
leadership, man, it's all about leadership to me. If you bring in a guy, and there's been, a little trivia question for you because you'll like this one.
Oh, I love it.
Let me bring it up here.
Perry Fuel, by the way, Brett, great name. Interim coach. Love that guy. I think he went like 3-4 with us, but I was rooting for him, man.
Were you?
It was fun. I was. That was like 2009. He replaced Dick Duran, I want to say it was, right?
Not sure on that one. But let me ask you this question. Last year in 2022, there were, most of the time when a head coach is hired, they have had to have been an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator. Last year, there were, and I'm going to rule out Matt Rule because he was fired after his 1-4 start, right? Someone just not take him out of the equation here. But there were 3 coaches last year in the NFL that were neither a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator. Can you name any of them?
So John Harbaugh, special teams coach, went right from special teams coach to head coach, which is very, very interesting jump there. So that would be one. Let me think here. This is a great question, Mike.
Yeah, there's a couple that are gonna be tough. And again, I don't want to. This is going to be a short one for you, so I'll bring it right to you. Andy Reid, surprisingly,
Really?
Andy Reid was not an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator. He was
a quarterback coach, though, right?
Yeah, he had some involvement. I think he was an offensive assistant, as they called it,
with the Packers
back in the day. But he was one of them. Like you said, John Harbaugh's one. Dan Campbell from the Lions, and then Matt Rule as well. So interesting stuff. Andy Reid's one of the best coaches in the league, and he is a offensive-minded coach because he calls the plays. But it's interesting that he never was an offensive coordinator for a team.
Real quick, I'm going to give you some trivia.
Yeah.
This guy was hired by the Bills. Didn't really have an offensive or defensive background either.
That's Marv Levy.
Marv Levy.
Yep. Trust me, when I started doing this research, I wanted to check into Marv.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah. Teddy Marchibroda was the
Ted
guy back
Marchibroda.
then.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I don't know. Let's see. Got some other questions in here. So again, I know Jake. It looks like, and I just don't feel like that. I was like, man, should we be worried? Should we be worried? We don't have a offensive-minded coach, and it does seem that a few coaches were skipped over recently for the reasons that we're talking about. Maybe, for instance, the gentleman who took over for, let's see, who was the one I said got fired last year? It was
Steve Wilkes over for Matt Rule.
Matt Rule. So Steve Wilkes. So Matt Rule got off to a 1-4 start, right? Steve Wilkes becomes the interim coach, gets his team to play 6-6. Played hard for him.
They did, yeah.
Nobody gave him a shot.
Steve Wilkes has been put into some awful situations. Going back to Arizona, one and done there. I mean, I think the players were actually protesting because they only gave him a shot for 1 year, and he was basically set up for failure. And again, with Carolina, what he did there, I thought was extremely impressive. This is a guy that should have a shot at another head coaching job. I mean, the players seem to love him, and he's able to still keep everything together in the building, even though, like, on the outside, it's totally burning down.
Yeah, and guess what? He was a defensive coach, the defensive coordinator. So he's got that defensive mind. So did a fantastic job of taking a team that was in shambles, 1-4. I mean, when's the last time you heard of
Christian
a coach?
McCaffrey list too? I mean,
PJ
Walker.
Last time you've heard of a coach getting fired that early in the season? That's just insane.
Yeah.
And he had him playing respectable for him. And again, it's that leadership quality that I think matters when it comes down to coaching. Trivia on Matt Rule: he never won a game coaching in college where his team wasn't favored.
That's a great trivia question. I love that.
I do. I like that one as well. So it was just kind of, I wanted to get your thoughts, Jake, because I'd heard you say it a couple times. I wanted to throw some data out there. Again, the sample size is small in the Super Bowl stuff. And, I only went back 12 years. If you go back even further, I'm sure you'll see more of defensive coaches winning it. And I'm sure there's a good mix in there as well. And I would like to get the playoff stats. That would be actually
that would be interesting to see.
Check into.
For sure.
But otherwise, for me, I'm not so worried about it. If I had to say, I don't think it gives you an edge at all, because I've had some really good managers. I manage a team, and I've had people that I've worked for, and I take it, from my workplace, and there's been some great leaders, and there's been some bad ones. And, I think in today's game too, you got to be a little different. Think of it as a parent, and I can relate to this. So, as a kid, much older than you, Jake, I lived back in a day where, if you did something wrong, you got in trouble. And it wasn't just little go sit in the corner or go upstairs or it's okay, Johnny. No, it was a little whooping from mom or dad.
Belt, man.
Right? And kids these days, they're a little more spoiled, just like the NFL players are.
Sure.
Right? They have these egos, and these different personalities that you just got to deal with as a coach. And again, you just they got to know you have their back, and you got to adapt to all these different things that are going on. Now, the one thing that the players are highly motivated. They're highly paid professionals. They want to win titles. That looks good on their resume down the road. And when they get into they want to get to the Hall of Fame. So they want to win. And I think every player in the NFL, majority of them, has that motivation, but it takes that leadership. So I'm all about leadership. Again, it's I've had a lot of good leaders in my life, fortunately, and I've seen what they've been able to do with maybe players, having that organization, like be organized as a coach, be consistent with how you treat people. Don't treat Josh Allen differently because he's $250 million man and he starts skipping practices and you're okay with it, but then here comes Diggs and you're all over him. You're all over him, Diggs. You just can't have that. You're suspended. Blah blah blah. You just be consistent and listen to these guys. Listen to them. Have that open door policy when they come talk to you, and because they all have things going on in life outside of football. So that's my thoughts, Jake. Anyway.
No, I love that. I think that's very well put, Mike. I think one of the biggest things that you look at with Sean McDermott is just how calm, cool, and collected he is in so many different situations. And going back to this past year, I don't know if another man could have handled what Sean McDermott did as well as he did. I mean, there were just so many things, one after another, that even before the season, I mean, he had to just manage and take care of and, be that guy that everyone could sort of lean on. And sometimes I can't even imagine talking to the media after some of these different scenarios he was encountered with. Like, just incredible job with what he did. And, I know a lot of people are easy to criticize him, and there's just so many good things that he does, though, for this team. And I'm willing to give him a little bit of a pass for last season. And I know, like, the time is now, and he knows that. Of course he does. But, I mean, look at what he did last year. I think that speaks volumes, and that's a guy that I'm proud that is the Bills head coach.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. I mean, we talk about the things that happened later in the season, but what happened in the early in the season, in preseason?
Yeah.
Matt Ariza situation.
Right.
Oh my God, what an uncomfortable situation.
Dawson Knox's brother getting shot. I mean,
that
dying,
well.
and then the shooting at the supermarket, rather.
Yeah.
And so many different things. It's absolutely insane. They all added up, and we still went on a huge winning streak, actually, which is incredible. Basically mid-season, as soon as more controversy hit us, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, another good comment here from Scott. I think another interesting angle to the whole idea is scheme and how certain things go in and out of style. Exactly.
Yeah, it's
Today
copycat
does seem
league.
to reward offensive schemes and challenge mismatches and find completions. But, like you said, things change. Right now it's favoring the offense, but I can easily see the defense figuring some stuff out. Hey, we got AI out there. If I go to ChatGPT right now and I say, come up with a defensive scheme to stop the Chiefs in the Super Bowl in the next game I play against them, it's going to spit out a script and tell me exactly what I got to do, Jake. It's going to make it easy.
But will it be able to make the adjustments that Steve Spagnuolo can make on a fly?
You take your computer into the locker room at halftime and say, "Hey, we're getting whooped." Ask the AI, what adjustments do I got to make?
Engage 8 every single play. Let's go.
I think it's a great point, Jake, about pride, adversity, and being a steady hand. Very valuable. Exactly.
Appreciate that, Scott.
Exactly.
I agree, man.
Let's see here. My dad's out in Memphis. He's traveling the country. We'll get back to your train in a sec. My dad's out there in Memphis, traveling the country with my nephew. They started a trip. They're driving from California to Buffalo. So they'll be out there in Buffalo, man, and having some good stuff. And then we got Trey saying, from an offensive coach standpoint, I just remember Andy Reid said he stole play from Dable after the Bills beat them and used it a few times in 22. We just have anxiety over Dorsey's lack of experience. Yeah, there's definitely that for sure. I mean, first year, of course, he had his issues, but he's got another year now, and he strikes me as that guy. And if you're going to be successful, you got to be doing this, just researching, watching that film, looking at what other people are doing. I mean, shoot, I'd be looking at Andy Reid's playbook all day, honestly.
I want to use some of the motion concepts that they have. I mean, I think it's brilliant.
Oh yeah, they're the one team that actually throws the ball to that motion guy. It's just not a trick play. They're actually going to throw him. They did it what did we say? Like 17 touchdowns to players that were in motion last year.
It's insane. And one of them got called back because they were just taunting at that point.
Yeah,
hilarious.
Blake, good seeing you, man. Blakers out there, Dr. Blake. We missed you on our last show. Hopefully we get you on.
We need to get you on soon because we need to do some diagnosis of some injuries here.
That is absolutely for sure. So that's it, Jake. I mean, I think we kind of, to me, it's a myth. And there's just not enough data, and you can talk this till you're blue in your face. So I know you feel they have the edge a little bit, but I think we talked about enough reasons why that it's all about that leadership, and we got a great leader in McDermott. I know there's going to be some folks tomorrow hitting us in the comments saying we're crazy. They're going to be yelling at us because he hasn't won a Super Bowl yet or whatever. But, man, he'll get there. I mean, I
will say just one last thing on this.
Yeah.
I think the teams that did win Super Bowls that were more defensive-minded with their coaches, they were like the elite of the elite. I mean, we're talking like 2000 Ravens, 2002 Bucks, Legion of Boom, Seattle Seahawks. I mean, that was those three defense, and then the 2015 Broncos too. I mean, they carried Peyton Manning essentially, but Gary Kubiak was the head coach. So, but they had Wade Phillips as their defensive coordinator too. So, Very interesting when you go back and look at those teams. But I will say this. I think the teams that were more defensive-minded were the elite of the elite. And there's like no comparables in NFL history. I think they're all very unique, and they're all going to go down in history as some of the best defenses to ever exist in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, thank you for that, Jake. It took a little longer than I thought, but I thought it was an interesting conversation.
It's a great conversation to have. We can go all day.
I know we could.
Yeah.
We go back and forth, and I don't think there'd ever be a right answer. But let's move on to the next segment, something new we introduced last week, and we're going to have this on every show. It's questions for Jake. We have a email account, nickelcitymafia@gmail.com, or if you're in the channel and you have any questions for Jake, those will take precedence. But we did get some folks who sent some emails to us, Jake. I was actually pleasantly surprised. So the first one, which is something we really haven't talked about too much during this off season, is comes from Chrissy in Arizona. And she wants to know if the Bills have anyone good behind Josh Allen that we could count on if, heaven forbid, Josh was to miss a few games.
It's Kyle Allen has starting experience in the NFL, as does Matt Barkley. Obviously, it's a major decline when you look at the two side by side, Josh Allen compared to Kyle Allen, or Josh Allen compared to Matt Barkley. I think last year we were actually in a little bit of a better situation with Case Keenum, who had more recent starting experience. Although Kyle Allen had to start a few games. I think he started 2 games last year for the Texans. So, can he get it done? Sure. But that's where you have to rely on your defense probably a little bit more to get you through some of those games, because there's limitations with what you could do on the offense. I think a lot of things change. You factor in Josh's freakish, running ability where he can hurdle guys. It's a terrifying thought. Brett, you put that very well. It is a very terrifying thought to even think of Josh missing time. But again, I think Kyle Allen can get it done. He has a starting experience, but he'll need a little bit of help. He'll need more help than Josh Allen, because at any moment, Josh Allen can take over a game. And I don't care who you have out there on the field. As long as you have JA-17 behind center, you're in good shape. That's not the case with our backups.
Yeah. Honestly, if Josh did go down for a game or two, hopefully it would just be that. I feel like they'd go outside of what we have. I mean, I feel like they'd go shopping. Who's out there? Who's available?
You think so?
Who recently retired, and bring him back. So who knows? We'll see. That's my opinion there.
Yeah.
Next question is from this gentleman's name here, Jeff in North Carolina, and he asked if Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Jalen Hurts are available when it comes time for you to draft a quarterback in your fantasy football league, who are you taking and why?
It's a toss-up between Josh and Jalen Hurts, just because of the running ability for both of them. But just because I think Josh has more of a chance to put up higher passing numbers, which he did last year in 16 games, I'm going to take Josh on this one. That's not even just being biased and a homer. I think
you're going to get the homer tag. You know that.
I know I am. But you look at the last few seasons in fantasy, Josh has been a top 2 or 3 fantasy quarterback. He was the top fantasy quarterback for like 3 straight seasons for a reason. So I don't see any reason why that changes this year. So I'm going to give it to Josh. I'll give him a slight edge, and that's just because I think he'll put up more passing yards and passing touchdowns.
So Scott says, I think if we went 9-7 with Tyrod Taylor in that roster, we can go 2-2 with Kyle.
That's a fair statement.
And this roster, in my opinion.
Yep. Although I think Tyrod takes a lot of crap. Tyrod was unique because he was a poor man's Michael Vick at times too. I mean, he can move. He wasn't Josh Allen where he was running guys over, but he was elusive. And he was definitely our best quarterback since Fitzy. And prior to that, I mean, you go back to the Kelly days, or maybe Bledsoe days. But very unique. And I think what he did was a little underappreciated. I know he didn't get it done per se, but did get us to a winning record.
Good stuff there. Yeah, so last question we have. If anyone has anything in the channel, please go ahead. But these are just questions that came in through email. So Kyle from New Jersey says he wants to know if you see anyone on the Bills besides Von Miller getting 10+ sacks.
Yeah, my guy, Greg Rousseau. I've been saying this every week, Mike. Over 12.5 sacks. That's what I'm betting. Put $100 on it right now. And if you do,
oh boy, anyone want
and
to
you
take
don't
that
win, maybe I'll send you $100 when I hit the lottery.
Oh, that's funny. Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Jake. I mean, again, this is send questions to nickelcitymafia@gmail.com.
Those are great questions, by the way.
And yeah, I love it. That was and you can ask the questions here in the live chat. Heck, if you ask a question in the comments, Jake and I answer even post show. We answer all comments that come in. So good stuff there. He goes, I bet you $100. He doesn't.
Lakers.
So there we go. We got a friendly family bet right here.
We're shaking on it. I can't wait.
All right, we're gonna have to keep track of that one.
Oh yeah.
Last thing we're gonna do is a little trivia. Obviously, most of you may know, maybe you don't. We have a Madden 24 contest going on. All you got to do is leave a comment after the show to get into it. Well, you have to leave 2 comments on, 1 comment on 2 of our shows, I should say. Basically, we're giving away 2 Madden games. No doubt about it. 2 people are going to get a Madden game. It gets released on August 18th. On August 20th, we'll announce who those 2 winners are. We're trying to see if we can earn a little bit more money and get maybe a 3rd game or even a 4th game if Jake keeps going as hot as he was in the first time we hit him up with some trivia. So we got 3 questions. He has a chance on each question to win as much as $5 and as little as $1. At a minimum, he'll win $1. So let's see here. Well, let's talk about this one before we get into it. First of all, let me give some questions before we get into this trivia because they're good. Rage Dog. There were games when Tyrod carried the team on his back to a victory. He had weaknesses for sure, and is no Josh Allen, but he was a good quarterback. Yeah.
He brought back like an excitement that we were missing, I think, at the quarterback position. I mean, Fitzy definitely gave us that excitement too. Don't get me wrong. Like there were a lot of games that we won because Fitzy did what Fitzy does and was just on. But then a lot of games that we lost because he just threw it away. But it's been an exciting time for Bills quarterbacks, I feel like, even going back to the Fitzy days. We had that little lull with EJ Manuel, but then we got to Tyrod, who's kind of started this, and then Josh Allen just, what a trend upwards, man.
Fitzy's only 2 years removed from retirement. I mean,
I would have loved for him to sign as the backup.
Maybe he can still throw a ball.
Do you know what his reasoning was, though, why he did not sign with the Bills? Because he says every time that he signs with the team, he has to end up going in and replacing that guy, so he doesn't want Josh Allen to get hurt.
Gotcha.
Which is brilliant. Gotcha. I mean, he's Bills Mafia through in and throughout. It's incredible.
I like this one from Scott, too. He says, we could, like, Boogie Basham, when they were drafted that year in the same year, 1st and 2nd round, I actually thought Boogie was the more advanced player. I thought he was going to have a bigger impact sooner. He was the more established guy in college, played more, but it didn't pan out. But he could be. You think Scott maybe? I mean, Boogie hasn't had more than 4 sacks in a year. You think he can get close to 10? Is that what you're saying, Scott? And then
that would be interesting.
Yeah, here's a question from Go Bills podcast. Who do you think is a surprise cut this offseason?
Ooh, that's a good question, Brett. I hate to say this, but it might just be Boogie Basham as a surprise cut. I don't know if that'd be so much of a surprise, though. I think a lot of people are expecting either him or AJ Epinesa to get traded or potentially cut. I don't want that to happen. Scott, I agree. I don't think we've seen the most out of him. And he offers a lot of value outside of, what his typical position is. I think he can kind of play all over the defensive line. He can block field goals. I mean, there's a lot of good intangibles that he has, but I think that might be one of my surprise cuts, unfortunately.
For me, I think it's going to be one of the DBs. I think it's going to be, for me, this would be a surprise, but I think it could be Cam Lewis.
Yeah, I could see that.
I'm worried about it because I really like the guy. I know he's got a bad rap for that ball he didn't knock down against Jefferson. But I mean, he's been solid. I mean, he can play corner, he can play safety, and I like having that guy who can play both spots. So for me, it's Cam Lewis. And then Latavius Murray, that's a good one there. Ain't gonna make it. Yeah, I mean,
this is a bold take. I'm gonna say 4 running backs make the roster.
I don't know. You said that last. Got Al from Michigan. What's Big Al doing out in Michigan? We got my
They
dad
went and
in
surprised
Memphis.
my aunt. They went and surprised my aunt out there. She turned 65 the other day. Actually, I'm sorry, she turned 35 the other day. And she didn't really turn 35, but I'm going to say that she did. They went down there and surprised her, or over there and surprised her. So they're out in Michigan at a lake house right now, having the time of their lives. And hope you guys are having fun. Yeah.
I love it. And then Scott's follow up to that was, I mean, AJ got 7 last year, and no one cares. Boogie kind of has to get to 10 to be re-signed. That's a pretty bold take right there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to get 10 sacks when you rotate in as much as the Bills do, especially with the players that they've added this year. I mean, on edge, starting would be Floyd. Von's supposed to be back year 1. What happened?
You'll see. I don't like what Brett says there. I don't like that one bit.
Oh, sorry. Wait. Oh, Gilliam? Is that Reggie's number?
He's saying Reggie Gilliam. Which, here's the problem with that. I feel like anytime that man is in the game, he makes an impact. You just got to give him more opportunities. But I understand, like, there's only so many weapons out there at one point, and you can only spread the ball around so much. But just think of the impact this man makes every time he's in the game. Like I said, something good happens. So make it happen.
If you want to keep 4 running backs, I mean, it could be him versus.
He would essentially be that guy. Yeah. Well, if it's up to that, then I say they keep Reggie Gilliam because, that's my guy through in and throughout.
Yeah, you don't want to have to, go use that jersey for, mopping the floor or dusting off some stuff. For
Never.
Sure. I like this one from comedian Mo Brown. I'm still trying to get the take on it. It was like, did you talk about the Josh podcast interview? If you're referring to my co-host here, who looks like Josh Allen, we talk about that all the time. So,
no, he's actually referring to. So, Bussin' with the Boys had him on.
Okay.
They went down. Well, they're in Nashville, and Josh went down to tight end U to throw a little bit, and he was on the podcast again. And I thought it was pretty awesome. It's always fun listening to him talk and chop it up with those guys. First off, let me say something. Mike, if you haven't watched that, go watch it because it's great. Second off, Josh Allen makes Will Compton and Taylor Lewan look like hobbits. I mean, he is a large human being. And also, he does look great in shorts. I'm going to say it right now. I mean, you see this guy, his quads are freaking huge. I don't know what he's been doing, or maybe it was the angle. But holy smokes, he looks good. He really does. And I think the interview itself was good and definitely worth watching. Talked a little bit about the Steph Diggs drama and all that, saying that the media blew it out of proportion, and now the media is offended by it. Obviously, I think the media had a right to, spin it a little bit just because Sean McDermott said he was very concerned. The way that he handled it, I think in that moment, maybe his emotions got the best of him, because it sounds like what really did happen was that he just sent him home, or that he said, hey, take the day off, go cool off a little bit. But the fact that he said he was very concerned that he wasn't there, and he didn't address the fact that he was actually there earlier on, had a lot of people up in the air. So I think, there's always two sides to a coin. And I think Josh just wants it all to go away, and he's sick of answering questions about it. So I think he was a little pissed off that they asked that question again, too.
Interesting. Hey, I want to ask you, because you mentioned his name a couple shows ago, and we didn't really dig into it, but you saw all the layoffs that ESPN has had, right? Pat McAfee getting a big deal with ESPN, I heard like upwards of $200 million deal with them.
Wow.
I like watching Pat. You like Pat? You watch him show?
He is an electric factor. I watch him every single day.
Yeah.
I think what he brings to the sports world is something so unique. No one's ever really done it before. And he's sort of changing the game. So I'm really excited to see what he does. And I hope the suits don't get to him. He says they're not going to. He's still going to remain authentic. The only thing he's not allowed to do is say the F-bomb. But apparently that's only during football season. So maybe during the offseason, he's allowed to again. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I watched him do a podcast the other day, and he doesning do many podcasts because he says, he was funny. He's like, the people hear enough of me, so I avoid these podcasts because they already get too much of me. But the guy asked some good questions. There was a lot of backlash from people when he joined ESPN. They're like, were you surprised? And he's like, a little bit. He goes, I mean, people have to trust me. I'm not changing my show. I'm not changing, we're not going to be changing the format. This is what's been successful. Why would we change that? Why would ESPN want to change that other than, restricting him on some of the bad words he can use. But I like it. Love his show. Good for him. Fantastic. You and I are shooting for that. We're gonna, now that he set the bar at 200 million, you and I will be shooting for 300 million.
Oh, for sure.
In the near future, right? So
if they want to sign us for half of that too, I'm open.
Yeah. We'll negotiate for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
I mean, we got a doctor part of our show now that we signed the contract. We got everybody. It is interesting to me. Let me ask you this, because it's funny. Who's the linebacker that he has on his show who played for the Packers?
AJ Hawk.
Okay.
Yep.
Those guys, I mean, the sidekicks, I don't feel they add a whole lot. It's all him. I mean, they'll add a few things.
No, I disagree.
They don't chime in too much.
Boston Connor and Ty Schmidt, those guys are awesome. Boston Connor is such a character, and I know he's a Pats fan, but I do love what he brings to the table. I mean, first off, that mullet that he's got rocking, incredible. I think the energy and the questions that he brings from time to time are really good. And then Ty Schmidt, if you haven't heard him do an impression of Lou Holtz or Nick Sirianni, or there's a couple others that he does. He does Mel Kiper too. It's awesome. He does a really good job with all of that, and I think their knowledge of the sports world in general is really good. So I respectfully disagree.
Maybe it's just because I catch the clips, right? And in the clips, I don't see those guys.
Right.
I'll catch the segment with Josh Allen. He's talking to Josh Allen, or he's talking about the Bills' new stadium. And AJ Hawk seems to be on, his face is, I mean, he's a pretty boy, so they're going to show his face quite a bit. Yeah. But he doesn't talk too much. He just looks pretty and add a few comments, but
smokes a cigar.
Right. Yeah. So I was kind of like, you've got the looks, but you also bring the information, man.
Wow. Well, I appreciate that. I'm not going to compete with AJ, but thank you.
All right.
That's
so
freaking awesome.
We're chatting it up here. We got, Brett asking about the blue cheese, and then Big L says, hey, I'm in Michigan right now, and we had blue cheese with the wings, and the blue cheese is not as it is in Buffalo. How are the wings, Big L? That's what I want to know. Forget the blue cheese.
Why are you getting wings outside of Buffalo, Dad? I never would ever do that.
Is that allowed? Is that not allowed?
I don't do it. I refuse to do it. I did it one time, and it's the biggest mistake I ever made. I can't. It's unfair, actually, I think, to the establishment that I'm trying the wings at, because they will never reach my expectations. Like, it's not going to even get close, And that's no disrespect to them. I just feel like Buffalo is a totally different league with wings, And as far as blue cheese goes, Brett, very good question. They asked this on the podcast to Josh, too, and Josh is all on the team blue cheese side, which is great. Yeah, I think other cities, other places, they use blue cheese only as a dressing for salad. They're not using it as a dipping sauce. In Buffalo, most places make their own blue cheese in-house. It's creamy. It's a great consistency, and it just pairs perfectly with any type of wing, really, not just hot wings or medium wings to cool it down. It's awesome, like across the board. So the way we do it here in Buffalo is just different, and a lot of people are grossed out by it. I'm trying to convince some of my buddies from Arkansas that I'm in that Discord group with, Mike, trying to explain to them, like, blue cheese is not what you think. It's not the salad dressing that you guys use down there in Arkansas. It's a dipping sauce, and it is the best, and it's the only way to dip your wings. If you dip it in ranch, I'm judging you. I really am.
I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but, growing up in Buffalo as a kid from a single mom, we didn't have a lot of money. So when we ordered wings, I was kind of forced to eat that blue cheese. And it was an acquired taste. Yeah. At some point, I started liking it to some degree. But then, I moved out here to Cali, and I didn't have any good wing places. And I'll tell you a little story about this. And then I went back, because you were just talking highly on the Barbell blue cheese. And I'm like, let me give it another shot. Dude, it just doesn't do it for me. And again, there's a whole situation for me. My taste buds were changed tremendously when I went through my whole treatment with cancer and chemo and stuff. And heck, it took me from Pepsi to Coke. That's all I drink now.
That was a good move.
Well, I don't know. I used to see Pepsi in my hand all the time. Now it's Coke. But maybe that's it. Maybe I can blame it on that, Jake. But I've tried. I tried so much when I went back to Buffalo a couple years ago, and I'm like, I'm just not getting it, man. I can't get that acquired taste again. So it's okay. But my family disagrees with you completely. When I took them back to Buffalo and they all tried the blue cheese, man, and I know they're breaking the rules when they say they love ranch. So I
People
know.
will give you a funny look if you order ranch.
Oh,
in
they
Buffalo.
did, and
Yeah.
I have 3 kids in Buffalo, and they
Right.
all gave my kids, when we went back there, they're like, dude, how can you do that? I think even the waiter at Bar Bill, when I think one of my kids asked for ranch, kind of looked at him
Yeah.
funny, like, are you serious? Are you seriously asking me for that?
Tisk, tisk.
By the way, so I told my buddy yesterday, I was 4th of July, and I was telling him how, we're going to do some food shows and that you're going to be going to these wing places in Buffalo and, talking about them. And he said, you should have him come out to California to do the opposite videos. Like he comes out, go to Buffalo Wild Wings out here, Epic
Ooh.
Wings, and do your videos there.
You make me throw up.
Oh, it'll be completely different. People will be like, it'll be fun. It'll be funny.
That would be funny, though. I agree.
So my buddy's like, I like Epic Wings. What's wrong with them? And I said, dude, are you serious? It's all about how they cook the wing, right? And out here, all these places, like we have a place called Wingstop, and young kids working there, but there's no pride in the way the wings are cooked. Half the wings will be undercooked. You get that nasty, rubbery skin. Some will be overcooked, but the people in Buffalo, they just do it right, man. They take pride in their wings, so there's no comparison. He's like, well, I don't have anything to compare against. That's why he was saying it seems okay to me, but I had to let him know. Yeah, he said.
Also, you get the cold weather here in Buffalo too, and we need that. Like we need that warmth and comfort. And there is something to be said about that. There's a lot of pride that these guys take, especially Bar Bill. Going back to them again, they paint every single individual wing with like a little paintbrush with the sauce. You don't hear that anywhere else. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to bring this up here from Scott. He says, I had wings in Japan once, felt like I had to try, and they split the flats in half, and that's 2 wings, 0 stars. The seasoning was good, though.
That's wild, man. I would have. That's a tough dinner right there. That's a tough meal.
And I'm embarrassed to even say this, but years ago, just recently, when you get buffalo wings, the drumstick in the flat, I thought the drumstick was the leg. I thought the flat was the wing. I didn't know it was a wing that was cut.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So did you know, obviously the home of the wings is the Anchor Bar.
Right.
So the Anchor Bar is known for, they took the wing to the next level, and they actually took the wing, the whole wing, and they were the first to cut it and then took it to the next level. And that's how everyone knows they're the original place. But I'm forgetting about the gentleman's name. I'm going to have to look it up real quick. There was a gentleman very close by the Anchor Bar, and he was serving wings prior to them, but he was doing them as whole wings. He wasn't cutting them up. And so, if you want to say who served the first wings, it might be this other gentleman's name in Buffalo, but I'll get his name here. I told you about this.
Yeah.
But the Anchor Bar for sure took it to the next level by cutting them up, and that's how we all eat them now. And so, anyhow, little history.
Interesting. Yeah.
Little unknown facts in Buffalo. What else we got going here? Why don't you talk about some of these folks while I find out? I guess we're gonna have to double up next show for your trivia, buddy. But talk about some of these other comments coming in from Brett and other folks.
This one I was unaware of. Neil Everett too? Are you kidding me? I love Neil Everett, man. That one hurts. There was another one too. Sports Center. I thought Neil Everett just signed off, or maybe I guess it was probably part of this too. It was more or less him being forced to resign. That's what it was, right? I think he just said it was going to be his last day, or he resigned. I'm not really sure how that all went down. I don't think it was part of the layoffs, though, was it? There were a lot of big names, though, on that list. I mean, some all-star people from ESPN. Susie Colbert. I mean, never expected that. Some younger people, too. Ashley Brewer, who I thought was awesome. She's married to Frank Kaminsky, too, and I thought she had a really bright future there. But, yeah, it's a shame, man. You see all these people that were let go. Hate to see that. Hopefully ESPN can figure it out and maybe bring some of them back, because I think a lot of them, what they brought to the table was mostly good things. So, yeah.
Yeah, by the way, it was John Young was the gentleman's name.
Okay.
Serving wings in Buffalo back in those early days, and they were uncut. So
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, if you look him up, you Google John Young, you'll hear the story that tells about maybe he was the first in Buffalo to serve wings, just not the style we're used to right now. What else? Did we get through everything?
He was just talking about, so obviously just talking about some of the other personalities on ESPN. And then Brett also said, down in Florida, our sauces go medium and mild. What's the difference in sauces? So it depends where you go here. Like at Bar Bill, their medium is somewhat spicy. Then they have like a medium hot, which is hot. And then their hot is like really hot. And then they have like suicidal, which is like, you can't even enjoy that. So that is definitely a pattern I've seen with a lot of wing places. They've tend to lean more towards the spicy side. But yeah, then you have like some outlier flavors too, like the barbecue, honey butter barbecue, and then the Cajun honey butter barbecue. So it all depends how you order them. But if you're talking just regular sauces, then yeah, that's typically how it goes.
You know what else should be criminal, Jake? And you're already breaking the rules or the laws on this one. Is that if you're going to for buffalo wings, you got to have the traditional buffalo sauce, the buffalo medium, hot or mild. But you're breaking the rules here and going with these honey barbecue, what is it? Honey butter barbecue? I don't know.
Honey butter barbecue? Yeah.
And then you got the Cajun. What's the Cajun one that you're talking up now?
So that's just Cajun honey butter barbecue too.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I agree. I get that. They still have a very good medium wing too. So yeah. I ordered both when I go there. I don't just get one. I get both. I get 20 usually. So, and I eat all of them. It's great.
When I go back there, I get the traditional ones because that's what we ordered. We didn't have all these fancy ones. I mean, the Loganberry wing is pretty darn good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Imperial has that. Tasted that stuff. It's fantastic. But I'm getting the traditional sauce for sure.
I love it.
Man, I think that's about it. You know what? I'm going to do one trivia question and we'll call it a night.
Okay.
We were almost at the hour mark. This should be good. So for an opportunity, let me see. Is this the one I want to use? Let me see. I have 3 of them. Let me see which one.
You can give me 3.
Oh, I'm gonna go with this one. All right. All right. Here we go. For $5, selected out of Jacksonville State by the Bills in the 9th round of the 1987 NFL Draft.
Jacksonville State.
By the way, take your comments off.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. That would have been bad. Okay, there we go. All right.
Selected out of Jacksonville State by the Bills in the 9th round of the 1987 NFL Draft.
Okay. Jacksonville State. You're going to have to give me another one, I think.
All right. Here. For $4. Recorded 124 receptions for 1,464 yards and 11 touchdowns over 7 seasons with the Bills.
So 87 and 94. Wow.
I'm bringing the tough ones this week. They were too easy or you made them look too easy last week.
This is a good one. This is a good one. I'm struggling a little bit here.
You don't even want to take a guess. It's not like you lose. You go to the next one. No guesses?
I'm going to say Keith McKellar.
Oh, my God. There you go. See?
Is it really?
That's
okay.
It. Keith McKellar.
I was thinking Keith McKellar, but I couldn't remember what school he went to.
So there you go. See?
Wow.
For $4.
Holy crap. That was pretty good then.
And what's Keith McKellar known for?
The K-gun offense.
Yes,
a lot of people think it's Jim Kelly. No, it all kind of circulated around Keith McKellar. Very athletic tight end. And that offense was legendary. The K-gun offense.
No one does trivia like Jake Potter
I'm surprised
does.
I got that, to be honest with you. I did not expect to get that at all. So
I thought it would be a little tough, but once you narrowed it down from 87 to 94,
then I started thinking
you could definitely think receivers, tight end, maybe a running back, but that was only Thurman getting.
I thought of Ronnie Harmon for a second, but he was a first rounder, so that couldn't have been. And I think he was 86. He was 2 years before Thurman, right?
And he wasn't on the Bills for 7 years.
Right, that's true too. Yeah,
so that was the other thing that would.
He was a great receiving back, Ronnie Herman. Man,
really? He dropped that pass in the end zone. I was at that game, man.
You know what's crazy too? He was known for like fumbling and like very poor ball handling and like crazy situations. Like even in college, I think he played for Iowa, I think, and it was the Rose Bowl, and he fumbled like 4 times in that game or something. And in the NFL, he was like amongst the lowest percentage of fumbles like throughout the night. It was a crazy stat like that, but I know he's known for that. The drop pass, of course, and you were
It
right
was
there.
a beautiful pass by Kelly. I was in the end zone. They were throwing it in. I was right there. I was jumping up and down, thinking this is an easy touchdown. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't that easy, but it wasn't that hard either. You should have caught it. You're an NFL professional. And then, of course, I think it was either one play or 2 plays later, he throws the interceptions. So he was trying to get it to Thurman Thomas near the goal line. And Matthews, what's the older Clay Matthews? Clay Matthews picked it off in that game. That's my memories of Ronnie Harmon. Ruined my trip to Cleveland for that game.
That is a bummer.
All right, let's go here. Let's see.
I love these.
$5. This one's worth $5. And by the way, we use this game called Who's the Man? Buffalo edition. Very, very cool. A lot of fun. It's all about Bills. By the way, Jake, I need to tell you, I didn't choose any, but it's not always a player. It could be a coach too. Just letting you know. Okay. All right. I'm not going to trick you up this week, but just know that.
Okay.
All right. So what was this one? Parade All-American and Mr. Florida Football at Frost Proof Middle Senior High School. Wow. You know this one, man. I'm just going to shut the door right now. And
Florida. So we're thinking Florida prospects. We had a Florida prospect last week, too.
Yeah, we did.
Sammy Watkins was.
Parade All-American and Mr. Florida Football at Frost Proof Middle Senior High School. Man, if you know that one, you really had to be taking some Sporkle.
You know, I should always take a guess though, like you said.
You
right?
You should.
Nothing to lose. Oh wow. I mean, let's say Travis Henry.
Oh my God, dude!
No, are you kidding me?
People are gonna think I'm telling you the answers. Oh my
serious?
God! Yes, I'm serious. I don't know.
I thought he was Pahokee, Florida, or something.
Oh my God!
Are you kidding me?
Travis Henry,
holy
dude!
Crap.
Oh my God! $5.
That is absolutely unbelievable.
Oh my God!
Travis Henry had a nice career as a Buffalo
Bill.
Now he may have had like 40.
I thought
kids.
I thought that one would definitely get you. Just to throw that out. I mean, didn't even give you a year.
I knew he's a Florida guy. He went to Tennessee, but he was from Florida. God. I knew that.
How do you do it?
I don't know. I really don't. That's insane. I'm freaking. That's hilarious. Wow.
Jeez. Wow. I wasn't lying when I said you go to bed. You got the little earpiece in your ear because the wife's trying to sleep, and you're listening on the phone, or you're taking these tests, these trivia things. I mean, my goodness, dude, that was fantastic. All right, let's see.
I'm impressed. I got that one.
Let's see if we can stump you here. Round 2 pick at the Bills, 54th overall in the 1991 NFL Draft.
91.
Round 2 pick, 54th overall. 1991 NFL Draft, Super Bowl years.
Okay, 91.
Blake was so far off on that last one. He said Daryl Talley.
I don't think it's.
Brett had the Keith McKellar one, right? But Brett, I know you're Googling those answers, man. Come on now.
Corner. I'm going to say it's a corner. Nate Odoms?
Survey says no. Okay, let's go for $4.
I forget what year Nate Odoms was drafted. Was he a first rounder, Nate Odoms?
That I don't know. We talked about. Didn't we have Nate Odoms on one of our?
We did. That was on our All Bills team.
No, but I think we had him as a trivia question as well.
Oh, okay.
Either that or no. I think you were thinking he was the answer to one of them. All right, here we go. This one you might get. Helped lead the North Dakota State Bison to back-to-back undefeated seasons and Division II national championships. Brett, I don't know how you would know this one, Brett, but you got it.
Did Brett get it?
Yeah, but I got to question anyone in the channel. It's right there at Google. Hey, Google, who's this person? All right, last time for this one. Helped lead the North Dakota State Bison to back-to-back undefeated seasons and Division II national championships.
North Dakota State. Ooh, this is tough. Wow. North Dakota State kid. All right. 91 NFL draft. Second round.
91, second round.
54th overall. Wow. I want to say it's like a lineman.
What do you mean lineman? Like which side?
I'm gonna say defense. You can't say.
You can't say. All right, we're gonna move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
Expired.
I can't.
Time's expired.
Yeah, I just can't.
For $3, added to the Bills Wall of Fame on September 18th, 2011. Jake, go through the Wall of Fame in your head right now, man. I know you look at it every time you go to the stadium.
That
2011 was when he was added.
2011. 91, you said?
Drafted in 91.
Okay.
On the Wall of Fame in 2011. I don't think we've ever gotten Jake below a $3 one.
This is tough. I'm struggling with this one. Wow. Wall of Fame in 2011. I feel like maybe a special teamer or something.
The comment section's loving this. They're like, we've never seen. He gets one for Travis Henry. And
How did I not?
He can't get one that's much easier than the Travis Henry one.
How am I? Like, who else?
Usually they say a lot of dead air.
I want to say it's a defensive lineman. And I like can see the roster picture in my head. He's, I mean, obviously a very good player. Wall of Fame.
Yeah. Pretty decent.
Like I'm Fred Smirlis, no. Phil Hansen.
You got it, dude. There
yes.
it is.
You know what the problem was? I was like seeing his, not his roster picture, but like I actually have a card right here. Look at this.
You have his card?
Look at that.
Oh my goodness.
What are the odds? My father-in-law just got
right
me the pack of cards.
Right next to me. You had the answer right there.
So I did not look. I swear on my life, I didn't look at that.
No, I know, but you had it.
But it was literally right in front of me.
That's too funny.
That's hilarious.
All right, you earned $12. Last week it was 11. You earned 12. We're getting close to being able to give away another Madden game.
Man,
all right.
I'm upset I didn't get that right away. That's pretty.
Well, listen, everyone, that was fun. Sorry we took you a little over an hour. It was not meant to be that long, but hey, Jake and I are going to be taking this Sunday off. We will not be back on the air until next Wednesday. Unless we get on, with one of our other friends that do shows as well. But you won't see Jake and I together for at least another week. So thank you for joining us in the channel. A lot of fun seeing you out there. And we'll see. Oh, Jake, he says he has a $5 question for Jake.
Let's hear it, Brett.
All right, go ahead, Brett. We'll extend it a few more minutes.
I'm excited to see what this is. I can't believe I had that card right. What are the odds?
Dude, that's
I forgot I had that whole stack of cards over here too. Crazy. I could have been looking at those.
So what brought it to you? Like what made you think of Phil?
Well, I knew I had a feeling it was a defensive lineman. I just couldn't remember. I was thinking Freddie Smirlis, but he was early, early 80s, I think, when they drafted him. So I'm like, can't be him. And I'm like, I know it's another guy.
So while we're waiting for Brett's question, the last two would have given you to probably started 148 games, piling up 634 tackles, 61 and a half sacks during 11 seasons with the Bills. And then the final clue was played opposite Bruce Smith at defensive end in Super Bowl 26, 27, and 28.
Got it. Oh, here we go.
What was Darryl Talley's nickname?
Spider-Man.
Isn't that pretty easy? Is that a trick question?
He had a couple others, though. And I think there were like 3 different nicknames he had. But Spider-Man was the main one. I only know of
the one. I mean, he wore those sleeves. And
name one of the 3. Okay, I was going to say.
Let
me see.
I think he did, right? That was one of them?
That was one of them, but there's 2 others, Brett's saying, and I'm drawing a blank on these. But I know, because I just saw this recently, too, because I do Bill Spork quizzes. And
oh, God. If you know these, I'll be shocked. I just looked them up. I cheated.
The blank of blank. Yeesh. You're going to have to give me these ones. I'm drawing a blank on these.
The Duke of Awesome.
Okay.
Spider-Man.
Yep.
And the Hammer. What's funny is I watched Darryl Talley. I was alive.
Yeah.
Older. I was in my 20s. Never heard of those. I heard of Spider-Man. Never heard of those other ones. So they must have been short-lived is all I can say.
That's awesome, though. Hey, some good trivia right there.
Yeah, definitely. All right, man. Wow. Well, good to see you, buddy. Thanks for going through that. I know there's a lot of pressure on you when we give you those trivia questions, but got another $12 to the pot.
Hell yeah.
So we're well on our way to getting a third game that we can give away. So thanks, everyone. Have a good one. We'll see you soon, and appreciate all the support out there, man. Take care, and
go Bills.
Bills.